Please give me some recipes for fruit cobblers.
You're live, okay.
Here are some recipes.
Oh, hold on, we're live now. Okay, it's August 17th. I think this is right. Okay, August 17th, 2020. I'd like to welcome all you who are here and those of you online. We've been going through doing a little sharing, and just to finish up, I guess on Happy Money area, I guess that's, you're wanting to get back to work, then you were saying too.
Yes.
So
Yes.
okay, there's quite a few people in that boat for sure, and a lot of unsettledness now on what's actually going to happen or not happen in the near future. Shantaria, how was your week? Happy body, happy mind?
Pretty good. I actually finally went back to the gym, so that's great. I've been doing the treadmill, and for a while, because of coronavirus, I didn't want to go to the gym, but I did for the treadmill, and it felt good. Except I've been there twice now. The first time I went, though, because I hadn't moved much or ran much, my capillaries were expanding. And when that happens, like your legs start to feel like they're itchy, like both of your legs, like up and down, was really itchy, which was really rough on a treadmill. But I got past that, so that was great. And now I will never go back to that because I don't like that feeling. So, but that was happy body, so that's good. Going back to the gym, and I beat you in a game of ping pong.
You had to bring that up.
Happy money is really good. Business is going great. So that's fantastic. I want to invest in my next possible rental property, maybe January 1st, something pretty big. And then happy mind. I actually did a meditation this morning. I hadn't done a meditation in a while, so I did.
Well, you did short ones, I know, but maybe not that long.
Yeah, it was a long one this morning, so that was great, and I really know the importance of doing those. So yeah, pretty
Okay.
good overall.
Yeah, mine was basically just the same routine twice a week going down. I did lose a little motivation, I have to say, in the mile because I thought I was going to be running in the World Huntsman Games, but I guess like everything else, it's been canceled now. So I'm going to have to try to find a place that's even got, the mile or even 1,500 meter going on. So I've got to do some more research for next week. I did notice that kind of did knock down my motivation a bit, and I didn't say, well, why am I going to go through all this pain if I'm in really good shape anyway? I can run a 6-minute mile. Why do I have to go down under a 5-minute mile? And there really is no point for that unless it's for a record, because for all practical intents and purposes, I'm in good enough shape. Anyway, I'll be doing my research next week, even if it's some really small place where I have to fly across the country, to do that. Yeah, happy money's been good. Happy mind's always good. Life's great. Relationship's great. Okay, let's jump right into the lesson here. This mask is.
Can I add one item to Happy Mind
Uh-huh.
that I forgot about? So unless things change, the movie's open on the 14th of August.
Oh, wow.
AMC Theater. So I am a
Nice.
happy camper.
Yeah, a lot of people looking forward to that, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some options out on the stock, though, betting that Cinemark and those are going to continue going down. But that would be nice if they really got out. And I just think with the social distancing, their profit margin, I don't know if they even have profits with having to social distance, even if they get open again.
I think right now it's just fixating on getting people to go to
They're just to get them back, kind of. Yeah, the drive-ins are okay.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk today about, of course, a little bit more in depth about desire, because that's really where everything starts. Without desire, for any given goal or whatever, even if you talked about it, if you don't really have a desire for it, obviously you're not going to do it. You're not even going to get started. But even having the desire for it and getting hyped up for it, if that wanes and the next day or 2 days later you don't really have that hyped up, heightened desire, then you're not going to do it either, right? So anyway, we're going to we've got to talk about really how to become not only a happiness pro, which we've talked a lot about, but how to become a happiness, a motivational expert too, and motivating yourself, starting with yourself, because that's the first person we have to motivate. And some people, interestingly, are quite good at motivating others, even motivational speakers, but they may not necessarily be that good at motivating themselves in certain areas, especially when it comes to health and weight loss and different things like that. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that. We're going to talk about time progress today too. And time either works for us or it works against us, depending on what we do day by day. And kind of starting that out, and it's all kind of works in with the desire to do something. If that desire is continued and the motivation is continued, you're going to keep making progress, and eventually you're going to accomplish that goal, right? If that desire is really strong enough, if the commitment is truly strong enough, and especially if you've kind of made an irrevocable decree that I'm going to do it no matter what, no matter come hell nor high water nor anything. Now, interestingly, we were actually doing some reading, kind of some spiritually related reading. It's a book that has some things that's got some similarities with the Bible and other different religions. But it was talking about how God, sees everything, and of course, their time is not even relevant. You can see, past, present, and future. And when He sees one of us, one of His children, a daughter or son of God, and they have made a decree that they're absolutely going to become, going to be a good person, going to be the best person that they can become more godlike, or whatever you might call it. Even though the progress might be slow, God already sees that individual as that greatly improved, godlike person. Maybe 30 years down the line, 50 years down the line. Of course, as we progress in eternity, and going more and more towards that, so it's already in God's mind. And of course, since God can see everything, that's already a done deal. Now, for us, or the person that's trying to become that better character person, they're trying to become more patient, more loving, more courageous, more understanding, more effective, more logical, whatever. It's a definite process, and it's going to take not just months, in fact, not even years. It may take decades. But if they truly have made that determination, they've truly committed to that, and they've determined that that is the most important thing in their life, at least from a spiritual standpoint, and from God looking down, He knows that daughter or that son of God, I mean, us as humans, that we're going to get there at some point. And He probably even knows, when we're going to get there. But anyway, it's a done deal. It's a matter of fact. It's apparently almost like on the universal record. So it's really interesting kind of looking at it that way, that even though our progress may be slow, if it's continual and steady and moving forward, and we truly have that desire, and there's no way we're going to go back. There's no way that person's going to say, go back to addictions or going back to maybe they were kind of a less than good person before or whatever. If they truly made that determination, and a lot of that might come through prayer and through, really going internal and everything else and connecting, that is as though it has already been accomplished. It's just a matter of time. All that has to happen is that time has to pass, because that progress is definitely going to happen, because there's so much determination, so much commitment, so much of absolute, going to do it. So, okay, that's a Gilly might be right there. So this really was kind of interesting to think of it that way, because when we, join You Are the Project, of course, we have in our first seminar that we do and that you can watch online, we talk about this is the time progress line here. And basically, you have time going by down here in the bottom, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, going on. Then you have progress going up this side. And so if a person determines, first of all, in 1 year, what they want to become. Now that could be, maybe they want to become a good Spanish speaker. So obviously they're going to have to learn some vocabulary. To just make it simple, let's say they're going to learn 5, they hear, great, Gil, how you doing there? Okay, let's say that they just determined they're going to learn 5 vocabulary a day in Spanish. So that's their goal. Now, if they do that every day for 365 days, I mean, that's pretty close to 400 days. That's almost 2,000 vocabularies, like 1,850, whatever it is, or 900. So that's a done deal. If they absolutely make that determination and there's nothing that's going to stop them, then even though a year has to pass before that happens, they are indeed going to learn, that 2,000 vocabulary during that period of time. So time in that case really works for them, doesn't it? Because in 1 year, they've learned almost 2,000 vocabulary. It would be the same with somebody that, say, is going to write a book. If they determine that they're going to spend 2 hours a day, to write a book, and they're going to do that every day, I mean, that'd be over 700 hours, 730 hours in a year that they will have spent, writing their book. And so, usually you could probably write a book within that amount of time. So most likely they're going to have their book, written within the year before. Same with a person that's going to say lose weight. If they determine that they're going to, even lose a couple hundred calories a day, go to sleep just slightly hungry each night, 200-300 calories a day, then that's 3,500 calories for a pound. So that'd be about 10 every 10 days or so. They would lose a pound. Maybe that's a few pounds a month, or they might go a little faster than that, maybe 500 calories a day. Then every week, they're losing a pound. If they absolutely determine that and nothing's going to stop them from it, then as that time passes, that year goes by. Well, in that case, they will have lost, 50 pounds during the year, right? Or they would have lost 25 pounds, during the 6 months. I mean, so basically going back to the concept that, God sees us and how we're going to become in a year from now, 10 years now, a better person or not. He also, I'm sure, would be able to say, well, this person is determined that they're going to lose weight, or this person is determined they're going to learn this language, Spanish, or they've determined they're going to put in these hours, to write this book, or even what they're going to do business-wise, call 3 people a day or whatever it is. So it's God, of course, can see that as fact and how that person actually will be in those areas, in the happy money, for example, or happy body or happy mind, 1 year from now. And that's what we work on in You Are the Project is 1 year from now, what are you going to become? What are you going to have accomplished? So I want you to really think along the lines of time working in your favor and how important it is, if you progress, time definitely works in your favor, and how important it is for you to make that super strong desire that absolutely you're going to do this no matter what. If it truly is something you really, really do want, then it will be a done deal in a year if you do those things. On the other hand, if you do like most people and you talk about, New Year's resolutions and you make all these New Year's resolutions, you're going to get healthy, you're going to save $300 a month, you're going to do all these things, but then you don't stick to it. And in fact, you lose the motivation. A month passes, 3 months pass, 6 months, year passes, and you haven't done anything. You haven't saved any money. You haven't lost any weight. You haven't learned, the language you said you were going to learn. You haven't written the book. You haven't done the project, whatever it might be. You haven't done it because you didn't have that strong enough desire. You didn't have the motivation. So what happened in that year? Not only did you not make progress in the goals that you said were important to you, but what else has happened in that year? You've gotten older, exactly. You've gotten 1 year older. So you're actually in worse shape than you were the year before, because at least you're 1 year younger then, right? Mm-hmm. So it's inevitable that each of us are going to age, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, going to get older. But if you are progressing during that time, still life is getting better for you. You're saving more money. You're at least maintaining your health, maybe even getting better even after a year. You might actually, in a sense, be younger in a year if you really, improved your health in that. And then, especially if you're working on your character, which is happy mind, and you start becoming a little more patient, a little more understanding, more courage, more love, all those things, you're going to be much happier, after that year, aren't you? Even though you're a year older. So your actual felt quality of life is going to be better 1 year from now, even though you've aged a year. So that's why I always come back that, more important than any goal, even than, the health goals of losing weight or the learning language or a project or whatever you might be, and even saving the money, those are all important. They're good. And we really do hope you will do that, but is becoming that better person, that person that's more appreciative, that person that can enjoy the now more, that person that's not worrying all the time. And you want to become this better version of yourself, because we experience happiness in our mind. It's not the big house you live in. It's not the circumstances you're there, because if your mind's not right, you're still not going to enjoy it. There are many billionaires that are unhappy. And, and there's many poor people that are unhappy too, of course, even more, but it always is a mindset of, first of all, do you have an attitude of gratitude? Are you appreciating even what you already do have? And even if you get double that or 10 times that, if you didn't appreciate it when you had this much, are you really going to appreciate it more? You're going to have this much or this much? No, because you really haven't developed the attitude of focusing on what you have, and you're always focusing on what you don't have. And that I will be happy when I get this much, or I will be happy when this happens. You got destination obsession. We've talked about that a lot. So that's not really going to help you, even though you may save all kinds of money, your circumstances may get better and better. You still always have to work on the mindset. It always comes back to the mindset, and especially what we call character, developing your character, because that's really where we feel happiness, and especially prolonged happiness, not just the temporary stuff, excitements and things like that. So we never want to lose track of that. And again, going back to what we just talked about in the beginning, God seeing, where we're going to be in a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now. Make sure your direction is the right direction, and make sure that you are day by day developing those characteristics of a good character. Again, being a little bit more patient with people, a little bit more caring, a little bit less self-centered, a little bit more balanced, a little bit more courageous in things you do, a little bit more effective when you do, a little bit more logical in what you do. All those things that you would consider to be, a great person or a godlike person, let's say. Okay, so that's really important, and I wanted to instill that in you as much as possible. That first of all, if you will have time, work in your advantage by doing those actions day by day by day. Now, how do we go about though to make that desire strong enough and continue that motivation to where the motivation can continue day by day, a week after, a month after, and all the way the whole year going through? Because this is the big question, and this is what all self-improvement programs and everyone's always trying to do, and what weight loss programs, everything, they're trying to keep you motivated. But now, how can you do that kind of by yourself? What are some of the, say, techniques or things that you would do to greatly increase that motivation and the likelihood of you actually doing those actions, for the whole next year, and then 5 years, 10 years? Any ideas?
Well, I always think when there's something that you're putting off doing, or maybe you're just procrastinating a little more than necessary, it's good to have a reward system in place.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get done with this half hour of yard work, I'm going to treat myself to a Slurpee.
Okay.
Or when I finish this half hour of yard work and an hour of cleaning out the garage, I'm going to buy myself a banana split. So a temporary reward system.
Okay. Yeah, setting up systems, definitely, something even at I know with Shantaria too, and, maintaining her weight. She wants to not eat out as much, say, as she did, before she had lost the pounds. But have something, like on the weekend, you want time to go out to eat or something like that. They can motivate you through. So yeah, certainly setting up systems makes it a lot easier during the week that you can reward yourself. And if and only if you actually did it. You got to be strict on that too, because if you reward yourself even though you didn't do it, that system won't work well for you. So you do kind of have to make that promise to yourself or to God or to your partner or whatever that, I'm going to do this, but I want to get, say, rewarded, with this, at the end of the week or the end of the month or, whatever it might be. Now, there's some things I want to talk a little bit more too, and I've actually wanted Shantaria to just mention a little bit. We're going to go into wants versus needs, and this is all we're centering around, the desire thing here and the time and progress. But how do we? What's the difference? Remember, what's the difference between a want and a need again?
A need is something that is a must.
Okay.
Your want is something that you kind of desire.
Right, and go.
I want, maybe it's not essential.
Yeah,
need is more essential.
Yeah, right.
Want is more.
Yeah,
a luxury.
Right, you both. Yeah, in a different way. Good, exactly. So yeah, it's the want is, even if you didn't have it, you'd be okay. The need, you absolutely need it. Okay, now there's an interesting thing. So we understand the concept there, and if we actually go through, say, somebody who's wanting to save money, if they have a bunch of wants that they've actually kind of convinced themselves their needs. For example, I have to have my nails done. You mentioned that, or I have to have, this expensive dessert all the time. I have to go to Starbucks, 2 or 3 times a week, right? I mean, they're actually thinking it more like a need, even more so than a want. Well, then they're very confused, of course, first of all, in their wants and needs, right? Because that isn't absolutely a necessity. They may feel very intensely that it's so powerful that it seems like it's a need, but it is still just a want. And especially, they have to recognize that it's just a want if they have made this thing that they're working for. If it really is a valuable goal, say saving the money each month, they have to determine that these things are wants, because if they still think of them as needs, there's no way they're going to let it go, right? They're going to keep doing those things that are keeping them from the goal of, say, saving the money. Now, Shantaria had an interesting concept here too. Now, everybody understands that the wants and needs here, and how people sometimes confuse their wants with needs. And, but talk about what you're talking about on the needs, the other side of the equation there. Do you want to address that for just a second? Because I thought that was pretty profound today.
I can't really remember so much. Go ahead.
Well, okay, well, let me just you're talking about on the other side, a lot of times people, when they have a goal or something that's really important, let's say saving money. In fact, for a person not to be evicted from their home. I mean, for them, probably saving a rainy day fund, saving $100, $200 a month, so that in case they missed a month of work or something happened, they want to at least have, say, $1,000, saved there. Now, if they are thinking of that as just a want, I want to have $1,000, that's not going to be as powerful, right, as thinking of it as a need, that I absolutely need to have that $1,000. I could easily be kicked out of my home and actually feel a little bit of fear about that, So it's not only changing our, recognizing that a lot of our wants are not needs on things that are distracting us and things that we're spending extra money on, or things that we're indulging in, those extra desserts or all those different things that we feel like we just have to have it. We also have to recognize, on the other hand, there are some goals and things that we absolutely do need, and we really should be doing them. And we're just thinking, I just want to save $1,000. No, you absolutely need to save that $1,000. Or say, I want to get healthy. No, you may be getting close to a heart attack. You may be about ready to get diabetes. You may have some real health conditions coming on. That is a need. You absolutely need, to take care of your health now. It's not just a want of you thinking, well, I want to be a little healthier. I want to lose 30 pounds. It's an actual need. Okay. So I thought that was pretty fascinating to think of it. And Terry brought that up. You've got to actually turn those things that you're thinking of as just wants that are good things. Saving money is a good thing. Becoming healthier, losing weight, whatever it might be. But don't think of them as wants. Think of those as absolute needs. And believe me, if you went into the doctor's office and he told you, say, listen, if you don't lose 50 pounds here in the next 7 or 8 months, you're probably going to die here. I mean, your heart is at the point where it's going to give out and you're going to have a heart attack. Don't you think all of a sudden you'd start thinking, oh, losing that 50 pounds is not just a want, that's a need, right? That's an absolute need. Or if somebody came to you and say, hey, listen, we're going to have to lay you off for a month, next month, and you're like the average, about half of America that only has about $400 in savings, and your rent's $700 a month, and that's all you got is $400, and you're going to be out of work for a month. Don't you think all of a sudden saving that $1,000 would become a need? Realizing, that, hey, I'm going to be evicted. I'm going to be homeless here if I don't, get that money together now, start doing some part things, stop my spending, sell a few things, whatever it might be. So we have to kind of learn how to develop in our mind and educate ourselves and convince ourselves, really. So convincing that these really good goals that we have of saving, of health, of even becoming that better person, because there's a lot of, and I'll go into a little bit more detail why that should be a need as well, that we recognize them as absolute needs, not just wants, okay? So we're gonna, on the one side, the stuff that's distracting us from being healthy and from saving, overspending, overeating, whatever it might be, those addictions we do, over drinking, anything, we've got to realize those things are just wants. And then again, going on the good side of the things that we're working in you or the project, to develop that happy body and that happy money and that happy mind, we've got to recognize those and convince ourselves that those things are actual needs from this point on, okay? So we're going to really go into a little more depth with that, and I want you guys to really think about this, because if we can crack this formula, that's what everybody, all the psychologists, all the motivators that have ever done self-improvement and taught and everything, I mean, they're trying to crack that code. You actually not only get people motivated, but keep them motivated, keep them going. So if we can learn how ourselves to learn this process of how do I convince myself, and visual boards, we've talked about a lot of these things. I mean, you set up a visual board for yourself of how it's going to look with you with a 6-pack, or how it's going to look, when you save $10,000, $20,000, and you go buy that car. Maybe there's a picture of the car, or you can buy that home, get the down payment on the home, whatever. Yeah, we know these things, and you should use them. I mean, these can be powerful motivators, having that visual board, having it on your phone, whatever it might be. But we really, inside you've got to convince yourself that is an absolute need. And when I go back to some of the bigger things, say, that I have accomplished in life, and I think of, why did I consistently do that, and then nothing was going to stop me from it. I remember back on a number of things. There was, Well, one thing was on my health. Back when I was, I guess when I told you when about 27 years old, I determined, first of all, that I recognized that this body is not like a car or a used car that I can just trade in and get a new model for, right? I realized I'm going to be stuck with this body for the rest of my life. And so I better, make dang sure that I take really good care of this one and only body that I've got. So I recognized that. It was no longer for me, it was no longer just a want of wanting to have good health. It was an absolute need. It was an absolute necessity. It was something that I was not going to go back on, that I was absolutely going to do for the rest of my life. And that's when I started doing, of course, my exercise program. I've been doing it somewhat to that point, but then the healthy eating in particular. And I started learning more about organic and everything else, and a lot more vegetables and things. And so I just made this real determination. It just clicked in my mind. I can't remember all the mental gyrations and everything I was going through, but I just knew that, and I also remember not wanting to age anymore. So you could add things that hype you up or get you motivated to add to that, the visualizing, but I really didn't want to age beyond, about 27 or so. And I thought, man, I want to keep this body as long as I can. I think I can probably do it up till I'm 40 or so, at least in that. And I want to try to do it longer and longer. And then, as I mentioned before, I get to 40 and my body's pretty much still looking the same, 45, still the same. I start doing some running, competitive in my age group because I'm not, I guess, aging as fast as others, and I'm keeping myself in better shape. Then go on to 50 and it's still pretty much the same, 55, 60, 65. And it still hasn't really changed that much. And then I developed what I call, half of age super health, and 60 is the new 30, all those kind of things. But it really did start with a super strong desire, and then actually thinking of that as an absolute need. I mean, it's something that I absolutely was going to get, and I absolutely was going to do everything within my power. I mean, I can't totally stop the aging process, but I can do a heck of a lot to slow it down a lot and do a lot better than the average person. And so that's really borne out over the years. It was, probably the single best decision I've made, in my lifetime, was really taking good care of health. It's served me very well. It served me, even when I went from millionaire down to zero about 8 years ago or so ago, 8, 9 years or longer ago, and give me kind of a second chance, because you've still got at least your health going for you. And you still have a body that's much younger than that. And you do have the experience and the intelligence and the wisdom. So you've actually got some advantages over having been young, and your body isn't, looking like say a typical 60 or 65-year-old. So to whatever degree, I mean, we're all at different stages of our life now, some in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. But really trying to make that an absolute need, that you really do want this one car, this one body to last as long as it can, and to be as healthy as it can, and convince yourself that that's an absolute need. And the other thing I will throw out, and I've talked about this a little bit before, there should be in one area a little bit of a healthy even fear there, because fear is bad when it stops you from doing things that you should do, or things that you hesitate too much on something that you really could do, but because of fear it holds you back. And a lot of times we have anxiety and things, fear that on things that aren't even necessary to have fear. And it's the fight and flight, back in the animal days, back caveman and everything. That's all you did, is you either fought when you had fear or you running away. Nowadays we still have the adrenaline and the fear come up, but we don't necessarily have these big things that we have to run away and everything. So that fear is bad in a lot of ways as far as anxiety and worry, but a little bit of fear as far as, and I don't know if it's exactly the word fear, maybe that's not the best one, but just an understanding of how painful it will be, or can be, and almost certainly will be, if you don't take care of your health. Because you see all these people, that do get the different conditions and cancer, and their body breaks down, and they're having hip and knee, replacements. A lot of that comes from wear and tear, but there's just all types of things that if they had taken better care of their body, especially when it comes to different ailments, and it could be high blood pressure, could be, again, heart disease, it could be diabetes and that. If they'd taken better care of themselves, they wouldn't have to do that. But almost everybody that gets 65, you've seen the chart, we showed that in the presentation, they do have, one of a number of different elements. They at least have high blood pressure or diabetes, arthritis, or all these different conditions that they don't have to have. They really don't. And over in Japan, you just don't hardly see it, and including the average weight gain that America and everything has. So it can be different, and it should be different. And we must think of that as an absolute need, not just a want, and not just be going along with everybody else because everybody else is unhealthy. And that's kind of what happens. And I notice this all the time when people, we were talking about that before, they get married and they see every other couple that they gain 10, 20, 30 pounds within a few years after they're married. And so that's what everybody does. So I guess I do it too. You don't want to be one of the sheep that's basically walking off the cliff there. You know, you want to be different than that. You don't want to be average, especially when the average is so ridiculously low. Health in America, it is ridiculously low. And so again, when you compare to other countries like Japan and some of these ones with the highest longevity rate in that. So we know it can be much better, and it's not inevitable that you're going to have like 80, 90% of people, you know, one of these major ailments and beyond 3 or 4 medications when you're 65, although that's 80, 90% of people are, but it doesn't have to be that way. It absolutely does not have to be that way. And most people in Japan, you know, aren't on the medications. Little by little, you know, the inroads and the push of the medications, it's going up, but it's amazing. Say a country like that, even the obesity and everything else is so very low compared to what we have. So let's get to where we again make this as a need and not just a want. And let's think a little bit more on this. How do we set up kind of systems? And like Pearl had said there too, a system where how do we do that? What are some of these more systems besides maybe rewarding ourselves at the end of the week?
Maybe an accountability partner.
Absolutely, that's a very good one. Yeah, these are some things we talked about, but it's good that we bring all these back up again. Yeah, if you can get yourself an accountability partner, absolutely, that's going to increase your chances of continuing that, you know, greatly. Now, there is one little caveat that I would say though, is that don't become so dependent upon your accountability partner that, like, if they have an accident and say you're going bicycling, I remember we had a member like that too, and then that you can't bicycle with them anymore, and then you stop bicycling or whatever it might be. You do have to develop a certain degree of independence that regardless of the accountability partner, regardless of your partner that you might go running with or walking with or whatever, you're going to do it anyway. But absolutely, when you can avail yourself of that, you know, avail yourself of a partner or somebody that, you know, you can at least call each other on the phone or text each other or some kind of accountability, you know, going on there. So that's very good. And that does increase the likelihood, especially when you're actually being accountability. I don't know how many it increases. I'm sure it increases it greatly. We do know that money will increase your chances of accomplishing your goals, and especially they've done this with weight loss 5 to 6 times. Okay, so it's a huge increase if you have money involved, you know, and actually paying you to do your goals. And I told you that one time about the guy that had somebody bet him $1 million that he couldn't lose 75 pounds like in 6 months. And you know what the guy did? I mean, what would you do if you're 75, 80, 90 pounds overweight and somebody bets you $1 million? Or they basically end up saying they'd give him $1 million. But I mean, you can probably figure how motivating that would be to people. It's not that people can't do something, it's just they're not motivated enough to do it. I mean, and people complain even about losing 20, 30 pounds and just can't do it. And they've got maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 to lose. But we see on YouTube all the time of examples of somebody that's lost 70 or 110 pounds or whatever. Something clicked in them, something happened that just got them so motivated and so determined to do that and so committed to do that no matter what, they were going to do it. Didn't matter what dessert was placed in front of them or anything else, they were absolutely going to do that, right? And of course, this guy that was offered $1 million to lose that weight, he actually did it to an unhealthy degree, I would say, because he was going like 8, 10 hours a day, you know, because that's a lot of weight to lose that quickly in 6 months. And they didn't think he'd do it, but he actually pulled it off and did it. So we know, I mean, it's indisputable, and it's pretty much a no-brainer that, you know, money will definitely motivate you. So if you did have a system where you could pay yourself, you know, for accomplishing that goal, and especially if it was enough that it really got you excited, there's no doubt you would probably do it, right? I mean, people are motivated to go to work that they don't enjoy going to, you know, because money does motivate. And that's actually what You're the Project is kind of founded on. I mean, our money motivation self-improvement system, it is set up so that more and more, we'll see this a lot more when we get the numbers, because until you get the numbers, the excitement and everything, and people getting paid checks of $1,000, $2,000 or more a month and that type of thing, doesn't really kick in until you got the larger numbers. But that's basically what it's set up on, is that, you know, when you accomplish those goals, that you can get, in fact, if you don't accomplish those goals at the end of the month, you won't get paid. And if there's a pot of money waiting for you, especially with the 2% of gross profit participation, if you knew that in next month that tens of thousands of people are going to join, and you're in a small group of these of us, say that are the 2% gross profit participation, and you know that thousands of dollars is going to be coming in that sharing thing, and if we really tightened up on the system, and your goal is you said you're going to do this, and you can't get paid unless you actually do those goals, and obviously watch the lessons, which is another requirement. I can be dang sure that pretty much 100% of you are going to do it, right? So that's what we're working for in You're the Project, is actually to set up a system like that where we become more. We haven't been that strict up until now because we got the shorter numbers, and it just hasn't got the motivation yet until you get the larger numbers going there. At least we do get the lessons, where they watch that because that's a requirement. But that is really what we're trying to work with in You're the Project, is have a system where, in fact, you don't know how much is going to come in. That's another aspect. We might even set up kind of a lottery type thing where, like 1 or 2 or 3 people get chosen, and then maybe there would be $1,000 or $10,000 or something, and it's going to go, at random, but only to those that have watched the lessons and actually accomplished the goals. I think we got some really fun things in the making, but we do have to get the larger numbers, and that's why I'm really hoping we get all of you out there a little bit more motivated to, introducing people, keeping the momentum going, so we can get this, 100 or so people by November, and then move on to the $1 million funding, and then the thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of people joining. But anyway, I wanted just to mention that on the money motivation aspect, because that definitely does work. And so if there's a way too that you personally, besides the system that we're working on is setting up with You're the Project, where you personally can add a little incentive. You might even have a jar or something where, okay, this is money that I put in here, so much per day or whatever, and I can use that to go shopping. Maybe at the end of the month you can go shopping for clothes, or you can go out to a show, or you can do something fun with that money. That might be a system you could work out too. There's been people that have done it with chips, or there's different things, but you got to become a little creative and use whatever it is that you think might motivate you to actually do that thing, that you say you're going to do. Yeah.
First one.
Okay. Okay. So I had the first one was control. Okay, so control. Actually, I'm going to make that desire though again. Can you change that? Make number one. I'm sorry. Number one, we're going to have desire. 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 Okay. So anyway, setting up this system for yourself and doing it creatively. Let's be working on that. Now, the other thing you have to kind of determine is how badly do you really want that goal? I mean, people all the time, again, they'll say that they want to save money, or they want to lose weight, or they want to, do whatever it is. They want to learn how to play the piano. They want to, learn a language. But you've kind of got to determine if that really, truly is something that you can convince yourself that you really do need. Because if you're just thinking of it as a casual want, there's a good chance you're not going to follow through when it comes right down to, you said you have a savings goal and there's something you want to buy, impulse buy, and you really want to buy it, you're probably going to buy it, or the desserts and the food and eating just before you go to sleep at night. Oh, but it looks so delicious. If you haven't really got that to the point where you really do want it and truly believe it's a need, you're going to succumb to those little things that take you away from your goal, right? So you gotta kind of determine beforehand, because you know the different obstacles that are going to come with you. And you also know certain friends that you meet, and that if they're always going out to eat, or if you're trying to stop drinking, they're always going out drinking, or if you're trying to stop smoking, they're always going out and start smoking, after they eat or something. That is not a good environment for you. And most likely you're probably going to succumb to that and go back to your old habit and not accomplish your goal, right? Now, it is true that if you made a strong enough determination, and no matter what, I mean, like if the doctor told you, that you're going to die literally if you don't stop drinking now, or if you don't stop eating, fatty foods or that, it wouldn't matter if you went out with your friends and they're drinking or they're eating this stuff, you wouldn't do it, right? Because you think you might die if you do. So that would be enough motivation. But you've got to figure out a way now. And so if you had that type of determination, it probably wouldn't even matter what your environment was. You'd still do it anyway. But most of us don't have that dire of a thing, or that huge of a thing that we know we absolutely have to do it. It absolutely is a need. So you are going to probably have to do some rearranging of your environment. And maybe, even in meeting friends, maybe meet them at a different time. For example, if it's weight loss you want to do, instead of meeting for dinner, meeting during the day for a talk or walks or something. I mean, you are going to have to do a little strategizing on some of that stuff, whatever your goals might be in the different areas. But really,
instead of leaving candy in the fridge,
yeah,
put it in the car trunk.
Right, yeah, it's got
Last night I got up and ate a whole bar of candy. I said I should have put it in the trunk.
Okay.
And I did put it in the trunk a couple of weeks ago and I had to throw it away because it melted so much.
Right. Or just not buy it in the first place.
We're trying to cut on that.
Yeah, that's a good point though, because so oftentimes you find people, want to lose weight or they want to do this. And yet when you look at their refrigerator, it's got all kinds of junk food and processed food. How in the world are you ever going to lose weight every time you get hungry and come into the kitchen and open up the refrigerator door, whether it be candy or anything else? I mean, how are you going to do it? You've got to start with the simple things. These doesn't require rocket science to figure out that if you're healthy, you better get some healthy food in the fridge, right? And you better get rid of some of that other stuff.
Or don't buy it anymore.
Or don't buy it anymore.
Or buy very little. And leave it somewhere else.
Yeah. Put it someplace and not easy to get. And I know Chantel, what she does me, she'll have me put it up in a really high place up there and kind of control it with the chips and different things. But sometimes she'll
lock it in another room inside your house. Sometimes I put it in my second bedroom. And then when I'm sleeping, I don't want to go get the key to open that door.
Yeah, okay, that can be helpful.
But it also melts in there a little bit because I shut the cooler.
The combination of things. First of all, try not to buy as much of it, obviously. Buy a lot less of it, you think, but then make it a difficult place to get where you really have to think twice before just grabbing it. And, you have to think twice, or sometimes maybe get a little sneaky or whatever. But usually, if you set up that system, it can be pretty, makes it so the system will work and that you won't do your habit that's quite, autopilot type of habits and things like that. Okay, so that can be really good. Now, let's see, where are we on time-wise right now?
7:47. Second word.
Okay, second word is
System.
System. Okay, so second word is system, SYSTEM, system. Okay, so setting these systems aside, but let's talk just a little bit more though about how are you going to convince yourself or motivate yourself, because we want to become experts at kind of hyping ourselves up. Like I said, there's a lot of people, there are experts that can really get people hyped up, but hyping up yourself and getting yourself motivated is one of the most important skills you can have. And especially in business, this happens all the time. You have a goal and especially if you're in sales and you have to make contacts and do all kind of stuff, it's very easy to not want to do that because, you might have rejections and things like that. But so usually if you have a sales manager there and they're on doing phones or whatever, I mean, they can kind of hype you up and they can put pressure on to do that. But when you're by yourself, you do have to really learn how to self-motivate and how to get yourself hyped up, and sometimes even motivational tapes. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do. Music, can do it there too. But you do kind of have to learn how to get yourself up for it and get excited about it. And then also even your confidence, because remember we talked about how confidence a lot of times can kind of stop you. Say, yeah, I really do want to do that, but I'm just not sure if I really can. I felt in the past in trying to save money and trying to stop drinking and trying to eat less or whatever it might be. So you have to have the confidence, that you can actually do it. And sometimes that's seeing other examples, going again on YouTube or something, say, hey, they can do it. There's an average person, of course I can do it. It's not that I can't do it. I mean, if you want to become like an NBA star or something, there's a very good chance you're not going to be able to do it, no matter how much you work out and try. But it's almost absolutely that if you want to say lose weight or you do want to save money, as long as you're not, unless you're making $5 an hour or something, but there's almost for sure you have enough control over that where you could save that $50 a month, that $100 a month, that $200 a month or whatever. You could lose that 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds a month. I mean, you absolutely could do it. It absolutely is within your power. So it shouldn't be a matter of ever thinking that I can't do it. It might be a matter of thinking I'm too lazy to do it, or I'm too weak to do it. I mean, sometimes maybe we just have to admit that that's what it is. But if that's the case where I'm too addicted to that, because we have to look at these are addictions. If there's something you want and yet you keep getting sidetracked and doing something that takes you away from that, overspending, overeating, or drinking, you are addicted to that. I mean, you just have to look at it, matter of fact, you are addicted, and that's not good to be addicted or enslaved to something. So that for me was always something that I just never wanted that to be. So I think I've told you before, they had that Lay's potato chip thing where they said, nobody can eat just one. And I would purposely sometimes go in and just eat one. This was as a kid, like 10, 11 years old, because I just wanted, no, I can do that. As much as I wanted to do it again, or a lot of times I would stop before the bottom of the bag and I'd leave a number of chips there. So I can't stop now. It's under my control. I just never wanted to be, like I wasn't under control. That was done in my terms and everything. So that's something too, I think, in wanting to get control of your life. Remember, we talked about how important control is for your happiness, to a sense of having control. Not having a job where you're on call all the time or whatever, but even on your eating, on anything you do, to have that sense that you are in control, that you are the one that decides when I'm going to eat. You're the one that decides when I'm going to stop. You're the one that decides what I'm going to buy, and not just an impulse or something. So that sense of control, greatly increases our happiness. So remember, that's another added benefit for getting more control and self-control, is that it will give you overall a sense of control, and it will give you a higher level of happiness. I mean, that's all the studies and tests show that as well. So that's another reason to overcome the addiction. Obviously, being enslaved to something is not a good thing. Nobody wants to be a slave to something. You want to be control of it, master of it, instead of being enslaved to it. So be thinking about all those things, and then you're going to have to probably go through an honest evaluation, because if you've had a goal that you have over and over again wanted to do, but maybe even started a New Year's resolution, but you've just never really done it, or you've done it to a certain point and then you've fallen back, you've got to convince yourself more convincingly. You've got to convince yourself that that's a need. That's one thing you got to do. And even if you have to use a little bit of good fear, like with me, I just don't want to be like the average person. It scares me. I don't think about it a lot, but it scares me to think of having to go to the operating, to the doctor, or having an operation, or having heart condition, or diabetes, or all those different kinds of arthritis. I just don't want to deal with that SHIT. I mean, I just don't want to deal with it. And so I'm going to postpone the likelihood of that ever happening, all the way, hopefully, until I die. Because to me, that's scary. I don't want to, I see all the time, I talk with people that have these operations, are going to the doctor, they've got this condition going on, the cancer, the whole kind of stuff. I don't want to deal with that shit. I mean, really, you ought to think of that. That's why I want more, at least in the health area. We should all have a common goal of being healthy. Convince yourself you don't want to be like that average person. You don't want to go through the pain that they are going through, and have in your later years dealing with health issues all the time, when you should be your golden years and enjoying. I mean, you may not feel the immediacy of it yet, especially if you're younger, but it accumulates, and it will happen, and your arteries will get clogged, and those inevitable heart attacks, whatever it might be, that kind of stuff's going to come up at some point. So you somehow got to be wise and convince yourself, sooner than later, that okay, it's time for me finally to really bite the button and do this right, and absolutely determine that this is the way I'm going to go. And interestingly too, when you've actually made that determination and everything, and I don't want it to be a totally joyless type thing too, because we have to talk just a little bit about this next week too. If you develop that lean, healthy person mindset, you still can, you can eat and everything. It's just be healthier choices. You might even find some really good vegetarian dishes you can put together, or more vegetables. There's ways you can do to make it delicious and healthy too. I mean, it takes some creativity. You might have to spend a little extra money too, but there are ways to make that less painless. And then once you get to the goal, and on not over shopping and all those other things we talked about as well, you can get to where there's a real pride in the self-control, for one thing, a real excitement in having saved the money, or having lost the weight, or having gotten healthy, or having learned language, whatever it might be. So success begets success, and that will actually become more of an exciting thing to you. And you'll actually, when you develop the mindset, you'll actually enjoy, even a shopaholic in that, they get so they're almost dulled to the excitement. I mean, it's not even any fun anymore. They're just doing it out of impulse. And a lot of times with eating, drinking, and that, it becomes the same thing. If you really get control of it, when you do decide to indulge a little in shopping or eating or whatever, you actually enjoy it more than the person that's just addicted to it. You do it on your terms, and you really can enjoy it much more. And your taste buds too actually become better and everything. There's so many advantages to that. So we'll continue talking about this in the project, in more detail, a lot of different examples. But I kind of wanted to bring that out today in the lesson, really get you thinking about it, because we want to finish this year up as best we can, by December. And even though you may not have done as well in a lot of the goals that you wanted to, kind of, get them going here, get some momentum going. And then we're going to have the big kickoff, like I said, after the November election, and then, getting a lot of people in, and then moving towards the next year. But I would like all of you that are already in the program now to get some momentum going into that, accomplish as much as you can going in here through, December, and then really hit the ground running, come January of next year, and we'll have to kind of kick it off, December, January. So, okay, let's see. Last word. What do we have there?
Progress.
And of course, last word is progress, which we've been talking about, progress. So anyway, I really hope that all of you can really give this some serious thought, and let's stop self-deceiving ourselves, into thinking that, yeah, I really do want this, or talking about it and everything. You've got to get it to the point where it feels a lot more like a need and a lot less like a want, as we said there. And so you're going to have to do some convincing. You're going to have to set up some systems. You may have to get the accountability partner thing going on, somebody accountable with you, a system, reward thing, whatever it might be. Get a little creative, whatever it takes. But once you've determined that really is a valuable, great, happy mind, happy money area, and maybe happy relationships too. If you decide that something in any one of those four, and they're all very important, is important to you, you better get your system in, you better get your motivation in, you better convince yourself, and you better think of it more as a need and not just a want. Okay.
When I was thinking about it, I thought about the fact that people, it's kind of a backwards thing when it comes to wants and needs. Like the things that we really need, we kind of give lip service to.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we want, our desires, is what we put the action towards.
Right.
So it's like we have to change our minds to actually take care of those actual needs and see the things that are needs as
Right.
actual needs.
Right.
And then want them.
Mm-hmm. Want them and need them.
Yes, exactly. Want that need. And so to kind of put that desire for that want into that need.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah. What you want with the need thing, yeah, you really want to want it too. And you should, especially these positive things, you really should want that. So you can have the want and the need both working for you. Convinced that it's an absolute need to get healthier, to save that money, to whatever it might be. And then the want, yeah, I really do want that. And the visual board, oh, that would be so exciting when I get there and all that. So yeah, that's really very good.
Because
So-
we want TVs, we want stuff like that.
Yeah, we always want that.
Mhm.
And it's kind of an immediate, quick satisfaction type thing. Whereas opposed to these things are very long lasting usually, type things where, a savings program towards maybe buying an investment property or a home, or getting our health where it needs to be, or developing that wonderful relationship, or of course our character, which is the single most important thing of actually being able to look back, a year later and say, hey, I'm actually a better person than I was a year ago. I can honestly say I'm a little more patient. I'm a little more understanding. I'm a little more caring of others. I'm not so totally narcissistic and into myself. I can see things a little bit more fairly. I'm a little more courageous, whatever it might be, a little more effective, a little more balanced, a little more logical. That is the most wonderful of all those that we can have, is be able to say that. And that will make our quality of life much better than even making $1 million that year would do, is actually having that much character progress. Because remember, even with the $1 million lottery thing, that 6 months to 8-10 months or so after, people go back to their same happiness level, because they hadn't really developed the mindset of really appreciating what they already had. Whereas if you develop your character, and happiness courses do tend to help on this, you actually will enjoy that. Even if you didn't get the $1 million, you're going to enjoy it more than you would have $1 million 6 months later, a year later. Okay. All right. So next week we'll talk a little bit more in depth on that, and I've got some other things I'm going to introduce. And like I said, we want to really keep things going through December. We're going to have a lot of question and answers. This way we've got it set up, we're having actually 3 lessons this month. Some months are 3 lessons, some months are 4 lessons, because there's 40 lessons during the year. But for August, we've had August 3rd, 10th, and 17th. But we've already had 3. This is 3, isn't it?
Mhm.
Oh, well, let's see. I was going to do one more. I guess we could do one more. Okay, everybody there, that we can do one more, because we were going to head back to the Belleville area and maybe purchase possibly another duplex and get the ones rented.
I was just gonna raise your hand. Isn't this the second one?
This
Today's
is,
the 10th, right?
oh, is it the 10th? I thought it was
Yeah.
17th.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking wrong too.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, no, you're right. Yeah, this is the 17th. Okay, so right. So okay, so this is the the 17th. That's right. That's what, and then we have a couple of weeks or so off after that. So yeah, we will be meeting here next week on the 17th. We hope more of you can come down, and then again, hopefully bring some to the presentation so we can keep the momentum going. We do want to double each month the number of people we're getting in here. Okay, so over and out.